It's November 18th, 2021, and this is Natural History Week in Rhode Island, which we designate every year to call attention to the important methodology that we use to investigate the environment and to the institutions and resources that make the practice of natural history possible in Rhode Island. Museums and systematic collections, zoos and aquaria, libraries, publishers, universities, and what used to be called learned societies, what we now call nonprofits, such as the Natural History Survey. So Natural History Week means it's time to announce the 2021 Rhode Island Natural History Survey Distinguished Naturalist Awards. Normally, we would be presenting these awards at the survey's science conference or our fall social. Unfortunately, due to the increase in viral biodiversity, we cannot do either of these safely. But we're not going to let that stop us from recognizing very special people who have made important contributions.
The Rhode Island Natural History Survey presents videos to showcase the animals, plants, geology, and natural systems that surround us, and the people and organizations working to understand and conserve them.
This year's distinguished naturalists are oceanographer Dr. Candace Oviatt and the late Cindy Hempstead, primarily known for her botany. Nominations for these awards come from the general public and are voted on by the Board of Directors of the Rhode Island Natural History Survey. The video you're about to watch was made earlier with Dr. Oviatt, myself, Awards Committee Chair Professor Keith Killingbeck, and Conor McManus, Chief of the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, Division of Marine Fisheries, a former student of Dr. Oviatt's, and representing the authors of the letter of nomination. Special thanks to Survey Board member Pete August, who helped to arrange the Zoom and is lurking in the background until near the end of the program. There's a complimentary video on our channel in which we present the posthumous award for Cindy Hempstead to her family. The survey gives two other awards, the Founders Award for Exceptional Service and the Golden Eye, and the recipients of those for 2021 are the subjects of their own videos. Candace Oviatt has a Bachelor's of Science in Biology from Bates College and a Ph.D. in Biological Oceanography from the University of Rhode Island. Her research is extremely broad, both at URI and before that at Harvard. But it could be summed up as having a focus on the relationships between ocean systems, biological and physical, and human activities. She has studied the systemic effects of chemical pollutants, nutrients, productivity and hypoxia, benthic-pelagic coupling, and biogeochemical cycling, and much more, often focused around Narragansett Bay. She is particularly well known for her development of mesocosms as research tools. Her work has been recognized by numerous awards, and the survey's Distinguished Naturalist Award is only the latest. I hope you enjoy this program, in which Dr. Oviatt speaks eloquently about the importance of scientists, regardless of discipline, also being naturalists. See you out there.
Okay, so I'm David Gregg. I'm the director of the Rhode Island Natural History Survey, and I'm speaking to you on the occasion of the 2021 Rhode Island Natural History Survey Distinguished Naturalist Awards. And Keith's going to say a little bit more about the specifics of the Distinguished Naturalist Awards, but as the director, I just wanted to say something about the way I view them. I think the Distinguished Naturalist Awards are kind of a combination of a thanks to people who have made a noteworthy contribution to our knowledge of Rhode Island's natural environment. We don't get a chance to acknowledge our debt to people who have really made an extraordinary effort, and this is an opportunity to do that. It's also an opportunity to memorialize people and activities that many, many years from now, after we're all gone, could otherwise be forgotten. And so we're going to write you into the history books, Candace, because we think that your contributions are worthy of being remembered. So that's kind of my perspective on it. This is an award that's voted by the Board of Directors of the Natural History Survey, which is 18 distinguished people from all institutions and parts of the state. And so Keith can talk a little bit more about the award itself. So Keith,
Morning,
take it away.
Candace.
Hi, Keith.
So many years ago, and David hit on this, the survey realized that the naturalists in the state have never been recognized for their contributions. And we thought it was fitting to have an award to do just that. And so the Rhode Island Natural History Survey Distinguished Naturalist Award was born, as it were. And we decided there were 3 criteria that we would use to judge the nominations that came in. The first was, and I'll just go ahead and read these, made significant contributions in the advancement of scientific knowledge of Rhode Island's organisms, geology, or ecosystems. So that was number 1. The second one is recognized as an outstanding educator to students and the public on Rhode Island's biota and natural systems. And the third is made significant contributions in enhancing public awareness, the importance of Rhode Island's biota and natural systems. There are check marks by your name for all those, Candace. And I want to just hit on one. So I was lucky enough last Wednesday to be at your seminar at GSO and to wander outside to see a dedication of a bench overlooking Narragansett Bay on that beautiful day in your name, and hearing 3 former students of yours, graduate students, talk about you. And probably only scientists would do this, but early stage, middle stage, and late stage students. I thought that was terrific. And Barbara Nowicki, who I've known for many, many, many years, had some incredibly sweet and revealing things to say about you and your interaction with your graduate students. And I think, to me, more than anything else, and that was part of the package for giving you the GSO Distinguished Achievement Award. And Barbara's comments were, again, incredibly revealing and indicative of what a fabulous educator you are and continue to be. And I thought that was tremendous. And that certainly fits in to the survey's Distinguished Naturalist Award. So congratulations on that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Conor.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Keith. And I'll first state it's an honor, not just on behalf of myself, but the co-nominators to be able here to speak to Candace regarding the Distinguished Naturalist Award. We are thrilled based on the news of her receiving the award. And, you know, when I think about my time with Candace to date, you know, over 10 years now, you know, there are several themes that have emerged that which really have really molded me into the scientist and naturalist that I am today and continue to be grateful for. From the day I met Candace, you know, she had always pushed me, or you would always push me, Candace, to think holistically about the world, to take a step back and use a macroscopic understanding of how systems work, not just ecosystems, but all things in life and everything. And that's really had a profound impact on how I now operate as a scientist. And one of the things that really drove me to move to Rhode Island and work with you, and I'm here still. So that's been a large part of my philosophy for science to date. And that comes with challenging yourself. It comes with taking a step into maybe an uncomfortable space where you're not the expert and trying to understand the system from various angles. And really challenging yourself to be a scientist at large as opposed to a expert in a given field. It also challenges you to operate in a team mentality. I know that was the case for me as a graduate student of Merle with that team that you had led there, as well as, you know, with collaborators. You know, I was fortunate enough to be thrusted into a number of projects that had folks ranging from physical oceanographers to phytoplankton ecologists to benthic nutrient flux experts to effluent experts to you know, fishery scientists. And without that, I don't think I would have appreciated or been able to fully grasp the challenging scientific questions and management questions that we're faced with today in terms of how do we manage ecosystems, because all those are an integral part to that. And I think I speak on behalf of all of your 36 graduate students and counting now, that has really been what's formulated our careers in these different paths, as well as the connections made and the people that we've now met and the appreciation for these various fields. It was through this type of work that I think it is what really allows for one to be a well-rounded scientist. And I think a real reflection of your leadership, your guidance, your mentorship, as well as pushing us, you know, to think about things that we otherwise wouldn't. And this balance between acknowledging the great literature before us, but also ourselves challenging it and thinking how systems are changing. And so I think that, and I think a lot of that though is based on, in part, being a good naturalist, looking at the world, just starting with basic observations, whether it's looking how the wind blows a certain day and looking how the currents are moving and looking how these rare events occur, whether it's a harmful algal bloom or a fish kill or a massive menhaden run. Those are a lot of the attributes in science that are the initial fuel for many of the hypotheses that we later then test with long time series data or observations and fancy statistical models. So I think that's ultimately, well, I could go on and on about your scientific accolades. I think that being a good naturalist is oftentimes one of the initial cornerstones of being so. And that's been reflected in our collaborations, as well as your mentorship of me. But even from just the recreational side, which I always appreciated with you, you know, whether it be horseback riding or hiking or, you know, hikes to go see the seals at Rome Point, bird watching. I'll always remember we would have, you know, monthly or bi-weekly meetings, and I go into your office and I have all my notes together to try and show you the work that I've completed since we last met. And the first question would be, what bird's that, as you point out your window? And I say, I don't know. and so everything, you would always challenge me to be a naturalist as well, aside from just conducting a thesis and looking at the oceanographic environment. You really pushed me casually as well as professionally to be a better naturalist. And I think in the world we are in today, as the environment continues to change, it's required of scientists in order to continue to be able to tease out how these systems are changing. So again, on behalf of the Nominators, I congratulate you. Over the moon for the news of this award. Of course, it's well deserved, and it's again an honor to be here to help celebrate that.
Thank you, Connor. That was very thoughtful and nice for you to say all those good things. I always liked your master's degree thesis. I thought that exemplified how much you had learned and what your approach was going to be as you progressed on to a PhD. And so I want to thank you for that great master's degree you put together. That thesis was just typified what I'd like people to do.
Thanks.
Thanks, Connor, very much for those remarks. I was making notes. Then I remembered we've got it on tape. So that was great. Candace, did you want to make some remarks?
Yes, I would like to. I'd like to be brief as always, of course. I think I like the idea of being a naturalist almost more than I like being considered a scientist. Always my professional goal has been to be a scientist, but as a person, I wanted to be a naturalist and to see things, to see nature as it is and how it's changing. And I do challenge my students to do the same thing. I trip them up sometimes doing that. Not Connor, of course. He's hard to trip up, but a lot of my students. And really it's turned them in a better direction many times to challenge them with what is that bird outside the window. That gets them to think about other things, I think. And I really like that. And I think Connor exemplifies that. Connor, I think it'd be nice if you could tell me what the other nominators were. I think it's Wally Fulweiler and Jason Krumholtz, but I may have that wrong because they're very quiet about what they might have done there.
No, that's correct. Yeah, both Jason, Wally, and I mean,
Yeah.
submitted the award request on behalf of you, and I would say that equally so in terms of their contributions as well as their sentiments on these. So I lean on my experiences today in these discussions, but I would only imagine Jason and Wally would have as many, if not more, of the same in terms of similar feelings as well as examples.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the three of you, Wally Fulweiler, Jason Krumholtz, and you, Connor, for putting my name forward. I also like to thank the board of the Natural History Survey. It's always been an organization that I've thought highly of, that I participated in briefly, and I think you do great work, Greg, and I'd like to see it continuing as strongly as possible. I think it's a great thing for the state of Rhode Island, and you do really good stuff.
Thank you.
So that's probably my comments.
Candace, I don't know your background. Did you come as a naturalist to science? Did you start doing bird watching or fishing or botany?
Not really. I grew up in Western Connecticut, rural Western Connecticut. And so I early on developed a deep appreciation for the natural world around me. There's no doubt about that. And I went to Bates College in Maine. And the natural thing I did there was join the outing club, which was hiking and skiing and clearing trails. And it was also a great experience. And then I majored in biology because I was interested in going on in biology in some form or other. And after, toward the end of my Bates career, I was looking for a job. And I went to a lab, a famous lab in Maine, to see if they had any job for me. And it turned out it was washing dishes, in a lab. And I said, I need to do better than that. So I came to the Graduate School of Oceanography to pursue a higher degree and see if I could spend my life further observing the natural environment and learning more about it. So really, I didn't start out as a naturalist, but the rural setting in Connecticut, I think, really stimulated me to say, really, this is the kind of place I want to live and understand. And I like the idea of going into oceanography because it seemed like such a wide open field. And in those early years, it was indeed. Much of our knowledge about oceanography is really recent. I think Tom Rossby gave a talk the other day that illustrated to everybody that what we know is very, very new. And so it's really been fun to be part of that history, actually. Every time you do something, you really do learn something new.
I was going to ask you how you came to the ocean coming from rural Western Connecticut. Did that happen at Bates?
No, it didn't happen at Bates, although I got a really nice brochure from the Graduate School of Oceanography about their higher education program, which they were just starting. And I thought it looked small enough so it would be manageable for me. And my interviews encouraged me to say, yeah, these are fine people doing fine things, and I want to be part of it. So I came and I never left. And it's not just the ocean. I think the coastal environment is it's where we have our greatest impact, and it's also where we have our greatest recreation. So there's a huge turmoil and controversy continuously in the coastal zone. So I think it's a great place to work and learn how to improve things in that area, because it's an area which is facing immense pressures from all directions.
Candace, I wanted to say, when you and I spoke on the phone a couple of weeks ago, I was not surprised, but really pleased when you indicated that you were really pleased by being recognized as a naturalist. Conor made that point in a way today. You reiterated that too. And I thought about that, and I hadn't expected that, although knowing you, I should have. And I found that to be not remarkable, but revealing, and in a way, I guess what I wanted to say is I really appreciate that, because I think a lot of us in the Rhode Island Natural History Survey, or in the organization and on the board, feel exactly the same way. When we have our meetings, we're talking about birds and herps and plants and everything imaginable, and it just resonates that, yeah, what we really enjoy is the natural history world. So I really appreciated that when you said that on the phone, that that was a high honor to be considered a naturalist.
I suppose it's old-fashioned, Keith, but you know, the early workers and the knowledge they revealed by their observations over time, I think, is how science got started and ecology got started. So I don't disparage that at all. I really think that we have to keep our eyes open and watching at all times, not just in the area of our expertise, but at all of nature and how it's expressing itself in this time of great stress, actually.
Yeah.
And how it's changing.
So Conor, what was that bird outside of Candace's window?
At the time, I believe it was, well, there were many that would come through, whether it was cormorants or various gulls, perhaps even occasionally something like a shearwater astray. But, you know, I just think back to that, you know, those types of experiences. And again, it was not just the quiz question. It was, you know, the true challenge to keep eyes open and to not feel as though I shouldn't know that, or that I should go look up these bird species and understand how these different elements are connected to the ecosystem, you know. And the birds are one example for that day, but it didn't stop there. Terrestrial as well. You know, I've always found Candace to be equally knowledgeable about our terrestrial natural environment in terms of just being a true naturalist, and not always seen when I would, you know, at work, you know, as we worked on the ocean together. But I guess it certainly transcends the tide line, you know, in terms of where her, in terms of being a naturalist for Rhode Island. So I continue to appreciate that, and I think it's also an important component of education, you know, because that's also how the public interacts with the nature. You know, they're looking at observations, they're leaning on their recollections or perspectives that not tested with hypotheses, not tested with a fancy model, but truly just being a naturalist. And I think that's a very keen way to engage with folks who aren't scientists, which is an important part of what we do. But then also listening to them and using that additional information to formulate hypotheses to be tested on the environment, whether that be with bird watchers or hikers or people who rely on the ecosystem, like for work, such as fishermen or aquaculturists or folks in maritime. I think that's been a pretty, I mean, something that I continue to appreciate more and more every day in my line of work, and trying to link those observations to what's happening in the larger environment. So you don't have to be just a citizen to be a naturalist. You can be a scientist and be a naturalist. And in fact, if you're not, it oftentimes makes your work that much more challenging.
Connor, I'm remembering your darn bird now. And I think we were trying to identify it as a shearwater, and it turned out to be a juvenile herring gull. And the thing that it brought to mind is that I can be wrong when I'm not an expert in an area too. So, and I think that's one of the things that we should be aware that we're not always right, but the thing is to keep talking with the whole group of us and trying to figure out what we're seeing. But I do remember that darn bird, and I believe we got it wrong.
Oh, that's terrific.
It reminds me of what I start every BioBlitz with, which is telling people that nobody knows everything and nobody knows nothing. You know, if the experts couldn't be wrong about stuff, that would be one thing. But if they couldn't then talk to somebody else who could help them with identifying a herring gull as such, that would really be the greatest loss. And so it's the experts being wrong and then talking to other people about how they got wrong that brings us to new knowledge and to a working knowledge of the larger ecosystem. Yeah, totally cool.
I think, it stimulated Connor to go look up the birds and bring me back pictures. And finally we figured out, oh my God, I got that wrong. It was kind of fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
But again, just pushing, as a good mentor does, pushing students outside comfort zones or making it clear there aren't bounds of, you're not just the phytoplankton expert or the quahog expert or the nitrogen expert. We're naturalists in Merle, and that's the outlook that we all need to have for better understanding how our work relates to the bay or to the ecosystem. So again, it was little examples like that I guess challenged me not just to be a better naturalist and scientist, in addition to also, working on my thesis and getting that done, but it doesn't stop there, right? And I guess that was the thing that even from the first time we interviewed for coming to GSO, that was very clear. And I think I had shared a similar interest, not fully before, when applying to grad school, not fully understanding what that entails, of course. But I think all of your students share that passion for using that, having an ecosystem approach or a system approach to understanding how different elements play into not just the science, but then our management of the systems. So, again, going back to when we first met, that was made clear, and I think what attracts many people to want to work with you as well. And I speaking to just acknowledging we can be wrong, I think that also lends itself really well to the team perspective. Whether it's grad students in your lab working together, with one being really good at boating and another one being good in the lab and another one being really good with analytics, it extends beyond that to, I think, the many projects that you've worked on, whether it's the CHIRP project for understanding hypoxia in the bay, the Boston Harbor sewage outfall relocation project. It's these entire teams of scientists coming together with their piece of the puzzle, but equally there to learn the other pieces and how they function. So that's certainly, it's again made an imprint on, I would imagine, all of your students, especially me, in terms of how not only I continue to pursue science, but then also how I look at questions as they come across my desk. So again, I think that's really shaped me in terms of how I approach questions moving forward in our field.
Yeah, I do like the team approach, and I think the mesocosms really cemented that in my mind. It was so powerful to have a variety of different expertise working together on those systems. And it was the engineers and technicians that kept the system running. We learned as much from them as we learned from the science of making those systems work and trying to dissect out cause and effect for various ecological processes. It was a real team effect, and it was powerful. I can't emphasize that too much. I'm glad to see the Bay campus now has a mesocosm facility again. It's not the A1 system we used to have, but it's a system that can work and will be useful, I think, to answer ecological questions as they arise with this hugely changing climate change we're facing right now.
Well, Keith, anything to add?
I was just going to remind Candace to enjoy the glow. It's been a great couple of weeks for you.
Yeah, it's amazing how these things all happen at once. The Distinguished Alumni Award was a week-long series of events, which really overwhelmed me a couple of times. It was just amazing, and then to have this Rhode Island Naturalist History Award, I think it's just a huge honor, and I do mean I feel it's a real honor to be considered a naturalist as well as a scientist. I think that's really important for all of us, and anybody can begin to look at nature and take it seriously, and I think we all should. And if I can instill that in our students, that they ought to get out there and really look at how things are operating in the natural environment, I think that makes us all better citizens.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Pete, you're hiding there behind your RINHS host box. You wanna, this is your chance to chime in.
What could I say that's over and above the great remarks that all of you had, except for Candace, congratulations. It's so well deserved, and a naturalist you are. I've been in the field with you from our IGERT field trips in the Bay to you walking us through the process of seining fish and crabs out of the Napatree Lagoon. Behind that veneer of fancy statistical models, you're an old-fashioned naturalist. So congratulations. The Natural History Survey saw through your facade, and I'm glad that you're getting recognition for your really deeply seated natural history skills. And as Conor clearly points out, your ability to radiate interest and enthusiasm. So congratulations.
Thank you, Peter. I've always looked to you to lead me and show me the way in all of these things. So I appreciate how you've led me through the years to see things better. So thank you.
Hardly. The only way I've led you is to a good time we've all had working together on our various projects.
That's also true. We've had a good time, Peter.
Well, Conor, thank you for setting all of this up with your letter, and thank you to your co-nominators. Thanks, Keith and Pete with the logistics, and Candace for coming this morning and joining us. We will look forward to seeing you out there in the future.
Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate it. And this is a deep honor to me. I assure you that I've been told I'm a naturalist at last. Thank you.
So David, as part of the award, is the Natural History Survey able to give Candace a real bird guide so she doesn't confuse her shearwaters from her gulls?
Yeah, we'll have Keith Photoshop it so that there's a shearwater in the place of the herring gull.
There you go.
The-
I can do that.
I know you can.
Congratulations, Candace.
Way to
Thank
go,
you.
Candace.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Connor.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Connor,
again,
special
Candace.
thanks to you. Thank you so much.
Of course.